cupping acupuncture set. What you should know about it is that there's a reason why there's a red and a blue, as there's a positive as a negative, as into a yin as to a yang. So on the table, it's not the best representation, but we have somewhat of how it'd be aligned upon the body. And later we'll be doing a quick, painless acupuncture needle set with our little volunteer here. But just to give you guys a quick little intro here, you can see that we have a little acronym here for called VASP, which is visual, auditory, sensory, and pulsory. And what would happen is the chin, not the chin, but the physician named Chin went to observe Gaozong, and he was somewhat suffering of a stroke around 683 CE. And at the time, Empress Wu was very against it and was definitely exuding the whole Confucian kind of belief that everything within the body stays. Why would you try and do something that's considered magical, which we'll later see in her time that she'll actually become a proponent for it too as well. But sure enough, Gaozong allowed the physician Chin to help out, and what is interesting is that I think almost everybody can do this, but if you take your index finger, you run it up the back of your neck, you're going to find somewhat of a bump. That is considered the Now Hu brain door, and that is where the set of acupuncture needles went to cure Gaozong's really bad migraine. And what's interesting is there's a difference between extreme recovery or extreme death. So if he was off by 2 more centimeters, it was said that you could actually have killed Gaozong if the needle went too far by 2 centimeters. So other than that, it's a very interesting application. And of course, Empress Wu and Gaozong praised the physician Chin, and it was amazing. So this, I want to just give you a quick check here. So you'll look on your right, you got the 12 channels, or the meridians, and specifically what I'm going to do with our volunteer here is that we're going to have one needle go through the center, which is the core, and we're going to do one right here on the top, which connects to the, which we'll do for the spleen, and then onto the left arm, we're going to do over to the kidney. And so what this means is that there's 2 forces that are like yin and yang, right here, and then the center is what is somewhat of a neutral point. So if you ever guys entertain the idea of going to an acupuncturist, you'll see that there will always be somewhat of complementary on each side, and that there should be some form of a neutral either within your core or it'll be in your back. But all this means is that your whole body is going to be attuning to the qi, and it's going to find where the blockage is. But most importantly, is that every 24 hours there's 60 circuits that happen within that time of all of these meridians. So something interesting that you wouldn't think of it as you're walking to school and to class, but it's happening right now as we speak. And of course I have a quick chart that gives you a little bit more in detail. Check it out, and you guys check it out on the PowerPoint. So I'm also doing the analysis. So
Have you studied acupuncture? Sorry, I'm just curious. It looks like you really genuinely know what you're talking about.
I'm making it happen.
Okay, that's really cool.
That's me. So just really quick, we have primal Daoism going on with the yin and yang forces during the Zhou dynasty. And then going on to the Han dynasty, there's definitely more appreciation for it, and there'll be a few more documents upon that, which we have in Hebrew. And then in the end, in the Tang dynasty, you'll see that there's this merging that is practicality and also availability for the core and the common people to be involved. Next one. So just as an e-brief for the Zhou dynasty for the hexagrams, you can see that we have our chart right here. We have Qian as our heaven, and then Kun as our earth. And what's interesting is when I did a little bit further research is that when everything is in a core, it'll actually be represented as Kun, as an ice force that cohesive, that everything is all connected. I was a little surprised, but it seems that Earth will continue to have that yin kind of power, and that yang is up there and Qian as the heaven. Next one, please. And then during the early Han, we have a quick classic for the medicine. What's really important about here is that the emperor at the time wanted to consult Daoism in a sense of being proper ruler and to also have a better kingdom. And what he finds out is that there has to be this balance. You can't be overly aggressive, and you can't be sloth. You have to be a moderation. There has to be a complementary action happening. And what ends up happening is by that time, he decides to be not exactly the he doesn't explicitly say he's Taoist, but what he does do is that he employs these forms of Taoism in his actions, that he doesn't entirely scourge other places of conquest, but he understands that you leave it intact as much as possible, going back to Sun Tzu, that you want to leave your allies still within power to receive and to also reciprocate your kingdom. Next one, please. And then later in the Han, we do have our Buddhist presence, which was said earlier in the presentation. What's interesting is that we have an army superintendent that is actually going back to the classics of Buddhism and going through the sutras, and he actually finds some solace in that after his two parents pass away. So what's interesting is with these incantations, it is believed that it can wipe away the wicked acts and also the four graves, sin. So interestingly, when you say sin, it's not the same thing as within Judeo-Christian kind of belief of sin, but it's more like in a sense, what we were doing earlier for the reincarnation, that the sins are something that's brought upon previous life cycles. And then one more. Oh, and then, yeah, on the bottom it says faith. I just thought that was very interesting that now we're entering this time frame where people are interested in faith opposed to rigid rituals and somewhat blind guidance, but we have faith going on here that this person went through that. I wanted that to be over there, but anyways, so here we are in the Tang. What ended up happening is actually 365 conscripted acupuncture points pre-Tang Dynasty, but at the end of the Tang Dynasty, it was published that there's 670 Qi acupuncture points as well. So that's something that also showed a radical change. Once again, going into geomancy, kind of like where you want to pick somewhat of a primal version of Feng Shui, is that you're going to find a place, make sure it's in complete attraction and magnetism in the sense that where you place what you need. For example, if it's a burial place, you want it to be in a perfect place that's in accord with all the elements. It can't be too high on a hill and it can't be too low on along the base, so you have to put it in the right place, because if anything is off, it'll totally set all of the chaos and it will actually breed those hungry ghosts and it will make afflictions happen. And then on the far chart over there, we're doing a quick sum up here. We have those Zhou hexagrams that are found within the I Ching of the Book of Change. And then we do to the yin and yang personalities that the emperor employed. We have Buddhism that is bringing this form of faith. And in the end, we have geomancy for the I Ching that you can see from primal parts of Zhou dynasty. And that is our presentation.